A bachelor's degree graduate student from the University of Aruba conducted an extensive thesis analysis on Oranjestad's Maintstreet. The goal of his thesis is to assess and evaluate the identity of the current Maintstreet. Following that, the next step was to discover opportunities where Maintstreet can be improved in such a way that locals and tourists would spend more money.
Kawish Mesier started his study on downtown Maintstreet in 2011. The research involved assessing all retailers in the area. Kawish interviewed 13 merchants. He also interviewed Mambo and members of the parliament. He handed out 150 surveys to tourists in order to collect data to determine supply versus demand. According to Kawish, giving the Maintstreet an identity is step one.
Okay, it starts with communication. They have to work together and come with a collective branding, because when I did the surveys at the tourists, I went in the Maintstreet, I went to the cruise ship, I went to the high-rise hotels, and a lot of tourists don't even know what or where the Maintstreet is. They think it's L.G. Smith Boulevard because they all drive on that road, and when you talk about the Maintstreet, they think that it's that. So I think we should change the name of the Maintstreet into Calle Grande, as it's always been, so we have the local identity, because there's a Maintstreet in Oranjestad, there's a Maintstreet in San Nicolas, in Curaçao, and Bonaire, and a lot of Maintstreets in the United States. So we need to talk about Calle Grande, and then people will know, oh, it's the Calle Grande in downtown Oranjestad, Aruba.
In order to attract more tourists to Maintstreet, the shopping area needs to be designed to appeal to locals as well. Once the locals think of Maintstreet as their main shopping destination, the tourists will then follow.
And what we've seen in the last couple of years is that a lot of malls have opened outside the Maintstreet, especially in North, in front of the tourist corridor. And now tourists don't have to drive all the way to the Maintstreet. They go outside of their hotel and do their shopping. So basically the Maintstreet has to reinvent itself, come with a new business model to attract a lot of visitors. And I think if we want, I did it for ATA, the Aruba Tourism Authority, and what I've seen is if we want tourists to come into the Maintstreet, we should focus on locals, because a lot of tourists want to shop where the locals shop. And if we only focus on tourists, we will lose them both.
The thesis writer says the newer generation of tourists want to explore the local culture as well flavor. If what Kawish is saying is true, that the tourists will go to Maintstreet by themselves if locals shop there, then the question becomes, how luxurious can Maintstreet become?
The focus has been to invest a lot in the infrastructure to create a 5-star Maintstreet. We have 5-star hotels, we want 5-star schools, and now the 5-star Maintstreet. The question is, can the local population afford to shop in a 5-star Maintstreet? I think the average consumer on Aruba cannot afford it. So that means what will happen is that the Maintstreet renovated itself. Once the owners of the buildings will renovate their buildings, the rent of the stores will go up. That means that the local retailers cannot pay the rent, and they will be taken over by international brand names.
We will have more from Kawish this week. He has come up with many ideas, simple ones, to generate more traffic into Maintstreet, from more convenient public restrooms to Wi-Fi and much, much more. So be sure to tune in for that.